The latest dose of Bipolar Recorder. This podcast may cause dizziness and blurred vision. Enjoy.
Hello again, it's me, Hunter Keegan, your host on this journey to the furthest reaches of the human psyche. I have a lot of updates about what's been going on both behind the scenes and on your screens. So for today's installment, just sit back as I give you a quick rundown of everything that's been going on. First and foremost, on April 19th, 2024, I successfully delivered a couple of additional mental health outreach presentations at Penn State University. It was a really amazing time, and I'd like to say thanks again to Dr. Weimer and all of the students who came out. They had really interesting questions, and I'll be putting out at least one of the recordings in the near future after I finish doing some light editing and post-production stuff. I want to highlight that there were two key members of the Bipolar Recorder community who came out to Penn State with me and who were incredibly helpful. One of them is the cinematographer for the upcoming Bipolar Recorder mini-documentary. His name is Andrew. Andrew spent basically the entire day with me recording audio and video for the documentary and for the podcast. Our mutual friend Steph was also there with us. Steph joined us for the afternoon presentation and helped live stream the discussion to our official Twitter, that is X, feed. That's at Bipolar Recorder. Hundreds of people tuned in and watched live as I spoke with the students about the nature of bipolar disorder and my individual experience with it. I met both Andrew and Steph through the Twitter community. It's truly incredible how the universe managed to bring us together, literally from 3 different states of the country, to collaborate successfully and create something awesome. And these are just 2 of the rad people from the Bipolar Recorder online peer support community. I've met other great friends as well by networking on social media. Despite how destructive smartphones and social media apps normally are, environmentally, socially, spiritually, in this case, we've really managed to utilize them in a positive way that's really cool and productive. After we finished shooting footage for the documentary and having a celebratory chill out in Steph's awesome camper van after the presentations and interviews were over, I spent the night at a hotel just north of the Penn State University Park campus. The following day was April 20th, aka 420, and for me, a deep appreciator of cannabis and cannabis counterculture, 420 is a special date. Some of the longtime listeners of the show may recall me briefly mentioning in installment number 29 that I was at one time involved with an organization called Chapel of Sacred Mirrors. It's an artistic collective of sorts based in a somewhat rural region of New York State. Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, or COSM, was created by visionary artists Alex and Allison Gray. Alex Gray is well known for the psychedelic album artwork he's done for the heavy metal band Tool, and together with his wife Allison, he hosts gatherings at his property. Yoga sessions, art classes, guided meditations, that sort of thing. Naturally, COSM has an event for 420, so I decided since it was such a special occasion, I'd drive a few hours further from Pennsylvania up to New York. I spent that Saturday hanging out at COSM, which primarily consists of a large colonial-style house on top of a hill in the middle of about 50 acres of forest, and then there's a separate large art gallery on the property too, called Entheon. Because I'd left Pennsylvania early that morning, I arrived to COSM unfashionably early, hours before the actual event started. But the people who worked there were totally cool and welcoming, and I spent some time alternating between the main house and the backyard as more guests slowly trickled in. I mostly journaled and mingled with the staff throughout the day. It was a very laid-back vibe. I met about 24 other people. I wasn't really trying to promote my stuff, but when I was asked what brought me there, I did explain that I'd been doing some presentations at Penn State. And some of the people who were at COSM actually were pretty interested in this, so I handed out a couple of copies of my memoir, My Brain is Trying to Kill Me. I also gave out some of the skull logo stickers. Allison Gray said she would hold on to one of the books and keep it in the library at the main house, so if any listeners are ever visiting Chapel of Sacred Mirrors in Wappingers Falls, New York, check out their library and see if you can find Allison's personal copy of My Brain is Trying to Kill Me. On the way down south the next day, I met up with my friend Paul, who has been featured on this podcast. He was one of the kids from my dorm when I was at Penn State as a student. So that was on installment 25 when Paul came on to talk with me about our lives together back in those days. It was great seeing him, and we also saw another dude who we knew from those days in the early 2010s. By the time I returned to my home base in Roanoke, Virginia, it was late April and I'd driven something like 1,700 miles and been on the road for around a week and a half. The trip couldn't have gone better. My car ran just fine. By the way, this is the same car that took me most of the way across the country during my manic odyssey in 2015. And I know things won't always go this smoothly, but I can't wait to get on the road again and keep taking Bipolar Recorder to new levels. Speaking of which, let's get back to this mini documentary that I keep referencing. What's that all about? It's the next major piece of content that I'm releasing related to the Bipolar Recorder project. That's right. It's no longer just a podcast. It's now officially a full-fledged project. Basically, it's a 20-ish minute short film that I've produced, all about how my independent mental health advocacy work has evolved over the years to not only include books, articles, and podcasts, but an incredibly vibrant and awesome online peer support community. Thank you to anyone who's listening who is part of that community. You're absolutely the best. I've referenced Twitter Spaces and X Spaces numerous times throughout this series. Some installments of the podcast are even recordings of conversations pulled directly from Spaces. Like I said toward the beginning of this installment, some people I've met from Spaces have even teamed up with me in real life to help with this outreach effort. And we've technically only been at it since October 2021. From the Blue Ridge Mountains of Southern Virginia to the banks of the mighty Hudson River, I've been traveling the land, spreading awareness and doing my part to support our mentally ill communities. But did you know that you can share your story too? Remember that if you live with a mental health condition of any kind, or perhaps you know someone who does, you don't have to take things to the level where you come on a podcast or do a public speaking engagement. You can also share your story with friends and family on an individual basis, and that's just as critical. But if you do want to come on the podcast, I'm preparing to record another series of interviews soon. So be sure to reach out to me on Twitter or X or whatever, at Bipolar Recorder or at HHKeegan. You can also reach me via email. My email address is hunterhkeegan@gmail.com. If you're interested in coming on Bipolar Recorder, be sure to include a little bit of background information about yourself, explaining who you are and what you'd like to discuss on the show. Remember that I quit my day job a few weeks ago in order to pursue this advocacy work full time. The impacts of that will likely be catastrophic, but it's something I really feel like I need to do with my life right now. I was feeling so burnt out and bored working my remote job from my little house in the mountains. I was starting to totally lose it. Now that I'm working on Bipolar Recorder around the clock, I've been feeling mentally and spiritually energized. I've been able to get the documentary ready to go much faster than I originally anticipated. I hope to have it out within the next couple of weeks, so that'll be mid-May of 2024 for anyone who's listening to this recording later. Note that our primary social media presence is on X at Bipolar Recorder. The best way to support this project is by subscribing on patreon.com. You'll receive unique, awesome merch that you can't find anywhere else as a thank you for your support. Again, that's on patreon.com. Check out bipolarrecorder.com for our Patreon link, or just search for Bipolar Recorder on Patreon directly. My name is Hunter Keegan. Thanks for listening. Keep an eye out for the mini documentary. The full title is Bipolar Recorder: Exploring New Frontiers for Mental Health Support. Again, the mini documentary is going to be titled Bipolar Recorder: Exploring New Frontiers for Mental Health Support. Have a wonderful day, evening, or night, wherever you are. Bipolar Recorder is a listener-supported show. To help keep the show running, consider checking out our Patreon page or visiting bipolarrecorder.com.
Unless otherwise stated, the hosts and guests on Bipolar Recorder are not licensed mental health professionals. Bipolar Recorder is not a substitute for therapy or professional medical intervention. If you are having a mental health crisis, please contact your local emergency services.